On here. Okay, we are on the Q&A panel for Trevor Heard Someone. Again, I am here with Sam 2 times in a row. Super excited about this and new questions. Let's start off because we didn't get a chance to talk about this yesterday. You're the founder of the production company Two, as in TOO Lemon.
Mhm.
So tell me a bit about your production company, when you started it, and what you specialize in.
Sure. We started in college, and we would just kind of use it kind of as our, just an excuse to make, whatever we wanted. But since then, we've most of the work that we get is typically we produce other people's projects. So
Mhm.
our first big thing was we produced 2 seasons of a show on when Snapchat was making original content.
Oh.
We made 2 seasons of a show for them called Apocalypse Goals, which was fun. It was, short form narrative content, which was fun. And we've done some music videos for some bands, and we've done some more stuff for the same two comedians who made the Snapchat show. We've helped produced a few more of their shorts and stuff. And so it's, we try to make our own stuff ourselves, but a lot of Two Lemons business is helping to see other people achieve their dreams.
Ah, nice. And of course, because you're in Cali, which is much bigger than my state and other people's, there's so many production companies there. So again, it's kind of like, do you ever struggle with that whole sort of gotta be authentic, gotta stand out, gotta get attention? Or do you feel that the services you have are standing out enough? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a good balance of trying to fit into a box while at the same time also, offering unique types of services. So, there's some of the practicalities of, the physical side of owning your own equipment and doing that kind of stuff. So you can offer, an all-in-one type of deal, but then you've also got to figure out what makes you stand out as a collaborator. Because, when we're hired to make our own stuff, we have to show our own sense of humor, but then if we're brought on to help produce stuff, sometimes people want help with the scripts and stuff, and we have to figure out how to fit into their box while also still, being true to the uh, quasi-serious, quasi-silly nature that Two Lemon often, I mean, it's in the name, so it's not always a serious affair.
Ah, no, I totally understand that. I was looking at you yesterday and I thought, you know what? This man is in his you're young. You're like early 30s. So I'm like, I thought to myself, I know you've done the little acting thing, but have you done the modeling thing or considered that? Because I'm like, you could finance your projects through modeling. Because I'm like, you're young enough, and I'm thinking he's cosmetically okay. So let's just get on that modeling bandwagon. Just throwing that out there.
I mean, I'm gonna start an indie band and call it Cosmetically Okay because that's like a great series of words. But no, the I if listen, if you've got an agent or a manager in your back pocket that you're willing to throw my way for that, I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
I just I don't have the infrastructure to know where to even begin with something like that, but I appreciate the compliment.
Well, and not only that, we're all broke. Let's face it, independent filmmakers aren't running around with like thousands and thousands of dollars, right? So what are you
Yeah.
always thinking about? How are we going to make our next buck? How is this going to happen? Hello, yourself right there. I'm just
Mhm.
throwing that out there. I feel like it's a good idea. Just my 2 cents there. Um, one of the things we didn't get to talk about is I love that you used to intern for Newport Beach Film Festival, which I've never covered before. I really know very little. So tell me a bit about that festival.
Sure. Newport Beach was, yeah, my first like real, I guess, job where I was there, at least 3 days out of the week, sometimes the whole week, depending on what they need, especially when the festival kicked into high gear.
Sure.
And it was, I did a lot of like, I don't want to say like pre-screening, but like, a lot of times the typical programmers don't have uh, all the time in the world to see everything, or if they do, they need to prioritize and figure out what is the best stuff. So a lot of times the interns would go through and be like, here's kind of like our ranking of stuff, prioritize these things, and then you should still watch everything else. But maybe, if you've had a big dinner and you're tired, you could watch these ones, at that time. And so then I did a lot of, again, the physical stuff, ticket taking, all that kind of stuff. It was just working at, especially at Newport Beach, where it's not one of the Academy name brand festivals, but it still
Yeah.
is like a very important, like well-liked one. There's a lot of like, all hands on deck, but you get a lot of resources to a lot of great like Orange County like movie theaters and resources because there's a whole lot of opportunity in Orange County. It's just very south of LA.
Oh, you betcha. And by your time through the film festival, it's often been said that people that either judge or intern or do all those things, it in essence helps them. to figure out what festivals look for, but more importantly, it can be an asset for you, not just the relationships. But did you learn anything or take anything from the festival that has now made you a stronger filmmaker?
I'm trying to think because I watched a lot of short films and when I was going through and helping them, the programmers figure out their things. And I think the main thing that I just learned is that even at a festival where like, maybe if you win, you don't get to go, qualify for the Academy Awards, like the stuff that I liked that I sent them, I don't think any of the stuff that I liked like made it through, and the stuff I didn't like also didn't make it through because that's just how rigorous the judging is that even the things that I watch, which was at least, a couple hundred films, they get, a few thousand. So like
Sure.
I was watching stuff and had opinions, but even those you have to be like the cream of the crop to get into any festival to be selected. So it showed me what high bar I have to meet. Because if I liked a film and I was like, oh, I'm going to do something like that, and it didn't get picked, then I was like, oh, I have to be better than the thing that I liked.
Sure. Oh, I don't think you have any worries. You're pretty high bar. I mean, if you looked at your two films, I mean, and I'm a pretty tough critic, I think. I think I'm pretty harsh at times, and I'm like, yeah, I think you're doing just fine, actually. Um, I know you've participated in 48-hour film projects. I've never done that myself. I've heard good and bad things from people, so I guess I want to get your insight on. Would you recommend that to like a starting filmmaker, maybe to jump onto a 48 hour? Is there a lot of benefit to doing something like that?
I think for sure for people who are just starting out, 100%, you should totally do it because there's nothing, it's sometimes it's hard to figure out how to start. And like a lot of it is, writing your own script and producing and doing all that. And it's so daunting. But if you have the constraints of doing something in 48 hours, like you have to have something by the end of, your time there. So I think it's a
Sure.
great way for people to start. And my team and I, we did it for I think 8 years. I think this was the first year we decided to take a step back, and it's a great thing to help build community too, and like
Mhm.
get to know other filmmakers and stuff. And I with kindness to the other 48 competitors, you see a lot of stuff that like this was clearly made in 48 hours, and then some people where you're like. I don't know how you didn't spend $100,000 and like, cash in every favor you've ever had to make this.
Oh, sure. Oh, I get you. Thank you for that. Because I know sometimes people are on the fence about how do they get into film. And I'm always like, look for opportunities. 48 hours is a nice opportunity. You're not going to like learn everything overnight, but it's a chance to get on set. So I
Mhm.
totally get it. Um, so you work on corporate videos, as I understand it, on occasion.
Mhm.
So I imagine that those are probably not only very daunting and technical, but I would imagine that the demands, as in I can picture a business owner and all the specific demands they want video wise. So is that a very daunting technical job since I've never done it?
It depends. I think once you find your footing and you get in somewhere in kind of a formula almost, like I don't want to say that everything should be done in a formula, but a lot of times with corporate videos, it is very much figuring out what they need and just doing that over and over and over again. So like if, to think of an example, like there's one time where my partners and I were shooting some real estate footage and we were kind of figuring out exactly what it should be. And then, for the first hour or so, we were kind of shooting stuff and we didn't really like it. And then as soon as we found the like real estate agent and got
Mhm.
him involved and then started following him with the camera and going places, we were like, this is the stuff that works. And then over the course of 2 hours, we like quadrupled the amount of footage we filmed and like got everything we needed. So it really is just like corporate can sometimes be again trying to find a box to fit yourself in. But once you
Sure.
find that box, there is a lot of creativity you can have and have a lot of fun playing inside of the box.
Hmm. And on the flip side, you also, I know that web series is listed. Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm not seeing a lot of web series being created. Is it my imagination? Is there really a need for there, or have people been doing them? Because I haven't been getting a lot of those.
People are definitely still making them. The problem is just we're not in 2009 and 2010 anymore where things
Yeah.
that just are self-produced and put on YouTube can like rise to the top because now things that are I mean Netflix is all internet, so technically all of that stuff are web series too. They're just very heavily funded and more attended by A-list people. So they still do come through because I mean there was still Broad City was a web show that continued to be a web show through like 2013, so that did well. Issa Rae show Insecure was a web show that I think went through like 2016 or 2017. So
Okay.
things that are almost contemporary that our web series still can like rise to the top and get people noticed and stuff. But I think
Yeah.
the web series itself has been replaced with more short form social media
Yeah,
types of videos.
you betcha. So that brings us to Trevor Hurt Someone. So, to those that may not know this, this is a true story. This is also, again, personal to you. Um,
Mhm.
so when we are talking about doing a true story, we want to be true as we can be, let's say, but also you're emotionally connected to that. So for you personally, was that challenging to be so close to this?
It was challenging to write it at first, but then once it was written, I don't want to say it like became its own thing. Like it was still a process to, emotionally get through it and be like, talk to Alex, the lead, and be like, not to say this is what I would do, but here's,
Yeah.
that thing. But it's most of the emotional turmoil was in the process of writing it, and it started out as a feature actually, and this is just kind of like a chunk of that feature where it's like the kind of the end of Act One where they have the confrontation um, with everything. But yeah, once it got on its feet and kind of took on a life of its own, it
Yeah.
made it a little more emotionally stable to get through.
I get you. Now, one of the things that stood out to me in this film is they've so brilliantly orchestrated that awkward moment, that awkward tension that exists between the two of them. I
Mhm.
find that so fascinating because that either is really great acting or really great setup, or they have themselves been through this before. So what brought that moment about? Because for me, that's one of the defining moments. It says a lot right there.
I think it was just them understanding their characters really well. I mean, Alex was very much living in the reality of dealing with feelings that he didn't want to talk about, and then Nico was doing a lot more of the like passing things off, like, I know something's wrong, but maybe we can just get through whatever it is. And, it's again, it leaves up to interpretation of how much people know and how much people remember. And I think that was Nico was playing it as well as possible. Like he knew exactly what he wanted, but he also knew how to play it so that it could be anything, which I think helped lead to that kind of ambiguity, which always brings about some awkwardness.
Oh, you betcha. And, one of the things I wanted to ask about is the amnesia, meaning when he talks about being intoxicated and he couldn't remember everything. Were you trying to make a point? Because I've seen plenty of movies where people kind of almost fall back on that, as in it's excused behavior. Oh,
Mhm.
because I was drunk. It's kind of not my fault that this happened, or because I was high, this happened. You follow me? So
Yeah.
was that an intentional choice as to motive?
I think it is because the thing that always happens, at least when I see in media, where it's like, oh, well, I was, drunk and I didn't know what I was doing, or, this kind of thing. But I think doing it to the point, like giving someone the intoxicated to the point of blacking out, where like there's no memory of it, that in your mind, if you don't remember it, like that wasn't you. You're now just being told a story, and it's really hard to believe. So if what he's saying is true and he truly doesn't remember, then he is even more on the defensive, where it's like, this is horrible, but it wasn't me. I wasn't there. I don't remember any of that. And then, obviously if he's lying, he's trying to use a very expertly created ruse to get out of facing any kind of consequences.
I found it an interesting choice that the backdrop of this film is set in a bar. Now, I don't know if, because I kept thinking to myself, I was thinking it would get played out in a bedroom or in a kitchen. For some reason in my head, I'm like, oh, I wonder, I felt like the story would fit well there. But did you do that specifically to address the elephant in the room, which is, obviously this is where this happened, or was there another reason for using that location?
Uh, it was, twofold. The first part is that when you're trying to, confront something about something they did wrong, you typically want to do that in a public place because there
Yes,
are people around and that kind of thing. And then in my mind, if he truly doesn't remember, then he's like, "Oh my God, we had so much fun last night. Let's just keep the train going. So let's just go back to, you know, pardon the joke, but back to the scene of the crime. Like, go do some more stuff there. We'll just hang
sure.
out there." So I think it was like a twofold on each of their part, where he wanted to go somewhere public and the other guy was like, well, this is where we have a good time.
Yeah. And you caught me with that writing. The writing is so strong, but the one that just that don't let this be my fault. I think that right there. That line got stuck right there. I'm like, that's kind of where things are right here. I absolutely love that line. That says a lot right there. I also found it interesting because I have researched this before in the past, and it is very normal, apparently, to try to continue relationships, meaning victims try to continue to have relationships with abusers, which in this particular case, you set it up that they're best friends, and then this incident happens. And then in some ways, it's almost as if he's consoling him at first and making him feel like it's okay, almost soothing and giving that sort of behavior. And then we see him swing around, and well, I don't want to give away the ending, of course, but things change a little bit. Do you think it's possible in those last moments, not only did the victim get peace, but do you think the abuser is now asking himself or maybe reevaluating the events and maybe taking responsibility finally?
Yeah, that's kind of what the ending is meant to be. Why when we hang on one person for so long at the very end as the credits roll, where again, you're taking one of the two sides. Either if he knows that it happened, then it's feel running through his mind of like, am I did I do a bad thing? Do I need forgiveness? Do I need all these other things? And then if he doesn't remember it, then like that's him like sitting there trying to figure out if he can remember exactly what happened and what details were like are true, what details aren't true.
Right.
Um, and I mean, yeah, when I want to take credit for the line that you liked, but that was in fact the actual thing that that person said when confronted with this information. So I did rip that
Oh,
from reality. So it's
gosh.
yeah, I want to love to take credit for being creative, but that was just a real and it's a great line, so I couldn't not include it.
Sure. And obviously, this wasn't done in 2025. This was done a bit ago, of course. And so, what is your intention now with the film? Is it outdone, as in like streaming, etc., or what's the intention with this?
I mean, I'd love to find a home for it where maybe, I don't want to give it like I don't want to very special episode it and, be like, oh, use it as a tool, give it to, there's like a great nonprofit it's either 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 that talks about male victims and like how they can, move forward and that kind of thing. So I would love for something in that regard for it to be, seen and used as like a not a solution, but like here's like a situation of something that could happen, and here's how these people decided to resolve it. What would you do in this situation?
That's a great idea, actually. That is. Let me think on that one. I might have some leads in that regard. Um, so this is what I want to say to you about this film. This is the second film of yours that I have. I am very, very, very proud of this film as I was with 218. I know you take a lot of heavy subject matter and you make it into a brilliant film as you did with this one. And they make me cry and they make me think and they make me feel. And that's what movies are supposed to do. And so I think in your young 30s, you're doing tremendous with the things that you're doing. I wish I could tell you if you're nominated, but I don't know because I still don't know yet. So I promise you by tomorrow I will have some decision made, but just know from me as a founder and as a fan of films, I applaud you for doing such tremendous work.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's nominations are great, but it's just great to be here in this nice company of films and just being able to show them to each other.
Yes, thank you very much.